lost my job and I found myself homeless pretty much.
Sebastian's journey is a testament to the fact that art can thrive outside the lines, nurtured by passion and personal experience. For years, he has guarded his talent like a secret gift. How do you talk to yourself, self-motivating?
There's lots to be said from creating bad paintings. If you're creating good paintings all the time, then you're not really pushing yourself. You're not trying different things.
What's your take on AI?
It's scarily good. But we're just going to have to learn to grow with it because it ain't going away.
How's your approach to painting?
Your learning curve is going to shoot up when you paint outside. You have to be quick. You have to get those washes down quick. But also what you see is not a flat 2D little image in front of you. There's something beautiful about translating what's in front of you and putting it onto your page. When you paint outside, you're creating, you're cementing, you're compounding these memories into a sketch pad, and it's beautiful. Real gift is having the enthusiasm and the passion to being outside and looking at the same thing for an hour.
So, but do you prefer landscapes, or is there a particular subject you are drawn back to, you do more and more?
I love landscapes because basically it's what's around me the most. It's like your handwriting, you know? Everyone's got their own unique person. No matter what experiences they've had, they've got their handwritings the same. Copying the masters is definitely a way to learn, for sure. It's better late than never.
Welcome back to Wet on Wet, the podcast where we dive headfirst into fascinating lives and techniques of artists who make this medium sing. I'm your host, Sunil Kalbandi, and today's guest is a force of nature, a true original, Sebastian Thommen. Sebastian's story isn't your typical art school narrative. Forget the pristine studios and formal training. We are talking about a rebel who found solace in sketching, a thrill seeker who has chased waves and the stage, and a soul who discovered the healing power of painting. Sebastian's journey is a testament to the fact that art can thrive outside the lines, nurtured by passion and personal experience. For years, he has guarded his talent like a secret gift, allowing it to grow organically, untainted by the pressure. But then in 2023, the water world took notice when he snagged not one but two awards at Europe's biggest plein air art festival. Suddenly, his secret gift was thrust into spotlight, and Sebastian found himself sharing the unique vision with artists around the globe. We're going to explore how his theatrical background influences his dynamic teaching style, how Frank Clark's video ignited his obsession, and how he balances his raw emotion of his past with the delicate precision of his watercolor. So, Sebastian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and I love the introduction.
This is what I've been trying to find most things about that, right? I found you mainly on Instagram, right? That's how most of the artists these days you find them on Instagram. And I could relate to the kind of work you do, and then I've been trying to find people. I mean, mainly it's because selfish reason is I just want to talk to artists to see what they've been doing in water world and other things so that I can learn. And then also maybe I thought it's like, why not share while talking? And then that's how the podcast idea started. So maybe I'm like 6 years old to the podcast, but I said it's like, why not?
Yeah, it's better late than never.
Never.
And it's good to get those wheels turning.
So, Sebastian, do you want to just start with who you are for somebody who doesn't know you, where you are, where did you grow up?
Yeah.
Some intro about your past?
Sure. So, my name is Sebastian Thommen, and I am based in Ireland. I was born in England, and my father's Swiss, and I ended up growing up in Ireland. I love Ireland. I haven't left. I've been all over the world, and I'm just drawn to Ireland. But also my kids are here as well, so that's another big reason. And do you know what? I kind of like the wet, rainy weather. You get used to it, and I've got a little camper van that has a little awning, so I can paint under the awning for when it's raining. And then when the sun comes out in Ireland, it's the most beautiful country in the world. I truly believe that.
Yeah. When the sun comes in, that's the caveat over there.
Exactly. Yeah, so I've been painting watercolors since my early teens.
Yeah.
It was fishing before watercolor,
Yeah.
and a neighbor of mine used to take me fishing. My father wasn't really around that much, and I always wanted to go fishing with someone, and this neighbor took me fishing, and I spent days and days by the river, sitting on the same spot, never really catching anything, but still loving being outside in nature. But tragically, my neighbor passed away, and his wife gave me all of his painting gear. I didn't even know he painted.
Yeah.
He had that Frank Clark Simply Painting watercolor set, and he had these old sketch pads and these old brushes. And I watched this VHS tape over and over and over again, and suddenly my passion was formed at a very, very early stage. And then going in through my teens, everyone was saying, you need to go to art college, you need to go to art college. And I contemplated graphic design, but I found that this new passion was so precious to me. I didn't want it to be destroyed by having to make a living off it. So I just kept it as a very, very special hobby and pursued acting instead. I thought, I'll just paint when I'm older. I'll paint when I'm older, and I just have fun now and get on stage and perform. And I was into water sports, still am, and I always just painted a little on the side, and I had a great acting career. It brought me all over the world, and in film and in TV and theatre, and I loved Shakespeare and performing, and I learned the craft of telling a story. And it was, I had some really special years, and then just before COVID, I decided that I really wanted to up my painting game. I was actually having a little bit of a crisis in my life, where my partner, my now wife, separated, and I lost my job, and I found myself homeless pretty much. This was in 2018. And I had this burning desire, an absolute burning desire to just paint. And I had never felt it so much before. I said, all I needed was to paint, and everything would be okay. So I finished it with my agent, my acting agent, and I ended up getting a job in a hotel as a night manager. So I would bring my painting gear into my workplace, and I would practice my sketches and watch YouTube. There was lots of sculptures around this old hotel, so I used to paint them in the middle of the night, and then I had to bake bread at 3 a.m. And then I would leave for my cabin. I found a little cabin to live in, and I went to bed for a few hours, and then I spent time with my children, and then repeated that and rekindled my relationship with my wife. So that was a happy ending. And but still, art wasn't going to provide for me and my family. So I had finished with my acting career. I had put a pause on that, and I set up a food truck. And so this food truck had a really nice coffee machine. I love coffee, and I love good food, and I made gourmet toasties with sourdough bread and this local scamorza cheese and Tom Durkin spiced beef and sauerkraut, really nice local ingredients. And but the magic behind it was when I got my logo put onto my coffee cups, I said, could I put a painting on those coffee cups? And they said, no, well, it's included, you're paying for it. So I put my paintings on the coffee cups. So I was working in the van and doing my coffees, but it was an old vintage horse box, really. It wasn't a van. And then people started taking selfies with the coffee. And that kind of boosted my social media. I had a PR consultant, or someone that helped me with my press, and he managed to get me a full page spread in the Sunday Indo
Yeah.
magazine, which is a really popular magazine in Ireland.
Yeah.
And it was all about my, artist takes over food truck. And, here are his lovely coffee cups with his paintings. And next thing I started getting commissions. And next thing I'm working towards an exhibition.
Yeah.
And then people are asking me to teach them to paint.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I don't need to be slaving away in this horse box,
Yeah.
every day. I can just paint, And it was a real lucky experience, but also a lesson in saying yes,
Yeah.
and a lesson in following your heart and following your drive and your feeling, your instincts, and
Yeah.
so I raffled off the food truck and paid off my debt, some of
Yeah.
it, most of it, and now I've just been happily painting and slowly getting kind of a little bit more recognized. You mentioned in the bio, the Plein Air art in the open was a real stepping stone into the right direction, because it really boosted things for me.
No, absolutely. I mean, what an interesting story. I mean, first of all, I just want to go back to, do you remember when your neighbor passed away? How old were you when you were handed over a set of paints?
I was 13.
13. So do you have any of those sketches or the sketchbooks where...
I do.
Okay.
I don't have them here with me.
No,
but,
probably it's worthwhile to add a couple of few images of that sketchbook when you were 13 and other things, if you still have it. Makes for an
Yes.
interesting. So maybe you can share it a little later. Then we can add them as in the transcript
Of course.
notes. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I mean, it's fascinating how things turn, right? So I just want to add a small story of mine. I started painting. I didn't know much about watercolor. I grew up in India. I had an old Sotheby's catalog in a library, and that was the first time I saw John Constable Haywire painting. And I thought, wow, that's a beautiful painting, and I need to paint it. And absolutely no interest in drawing or painting. And the first painting I ever tried was John Constable Haywire. So it was a complete disaster, but that sparked me into painting, and then I've been painting and drawing ever since. So that's
Amazing.
Yeah, I think I was probably about 15, 16, I think so. But that age where you're easily motivated by something.
Yes. And something can influence you, and just a painting by another artist you haven't even heard of.
Yeah.
Imagine that is enough to go, that's my calling.
That's your calling.
That's my calling.
So I still think that the coffee cup, when I saw that, it's a very good idea. I think it's a very good idea to promote Ireland. I think you should continue. There is some economics in that one. So even if it's a lost leader, I think there is something, because if it can capture audience, right? People are looking for different ways to capture ideas. As an artist, I think it's important, especially if you're a dad having kids. Making a living of art is a challenge. Any advantage, I would take it. If I would still think about seeing if you can get into that coffee cup.
I know. And when I sold the coffee trade, when I raffled it, the person that won it didn't realize how hard work it was to run it, and he asked me to help him sell it. And so I helped him sell it, and he said, I need to pay you. And I said, you don't need to pay me. There's just one thing I want. Just, can I have a box of my coffee cups back, please? So I keep them in my own studio now. So when my students come to workshops in my studio, I give them the coffee in the coffee cups.
Oh, that's a personal touch. So we could go in a long different directions, Sebastian. So why, again, Ireland, I can see in your paintings and other things, why plein air, why not studio? And then also, could we just go about your approach to what a good painting for you is, and then how you approach it? Are you inspired by somebody? How and why do you do what you do right now?
Okay, so initially when I saw someone painting outside in Ireland, I thought, oh God, he's full of himself. What's he doing out there? He's a show off. He just wants attention. I thought that's the last thing that I would ever do if I was a professional artist. And then I realized then the benefit in painting outside. And it's it's your learning curve is going to shoot up
Yeah.
when you paint outside, because you are forced to not fiddle. You have to be quick. You have to get those washes down quick. But also, what you see is not a flat 2D little image in front of you.
Yeah.
You're you're seeing the world, and you have to compress it into your page. And
Yeah.
there's something beautiful about translating what's in front of you and putting it onto your page. So the more I tried it and the more I've read about masters that swore by it, the more I began to swear by it. And it's just so special. Even if it's just a sketch pad, when you're going through your sketch pad, you're looking at all of these amazing memories that you had in that time, that all the people that came up to you while you were painting whatever it was you were sketching, and they all come flooding back, and the smells, and that doesn't happen if you're taking a picture and you're looking at thousands of photos. You don't have all of these memories coming back to you. What you do with paintings is, when you paint outside, you're creating, you're cementing, you're compounding these memories into a sketch pad, and it's just it's beautiful for yourself. I heard some artist, I can't remember his name, he was on he was on a podcast, the Plein podcast, and I wish I remember his name, but he says that sometimes when people come up to him when he's painting and they say, "Oh, you've got such a gift. You look at what you've done. You've such a gift." He said, "No, you're right. It's a gift, but what I'm doing wasn't a gift that was given to me. The real gift is having the enthusiasm and the passion to being outside and looking at the same thing for an hour. That's the gift of being. That's the real gift. And it doesn't matter how good your paintings are. You've got this amazing gift of just being in that one location." So that's the first question answered.
No, but do you generally do a value sketch before you paint, or how's your approach to painting? So you look at a subject. For a lot of people who might be not familiar with watercolor, how would you explain what your process is so that people understand?
Yeah.
First of all, I think for viewers, plein air is just a French word for going outside and painting. Yeah. So that's plein air for you guys. Well, how would you describe your approaches? So
Yes. So value studies were a game changer for me, because they help you simplify a scene. And I used to religiously do a little value study, a little sketch, just to show, okay, that's going to be the first wash, that's going to be the middle value, and then I'll put my darkest there, and this is going to be the composition. I'll tweak it a little bit. And that became such a habit that I ended up eventually doing the value studies in my head before I paint. So you're looking at a scene, and sometimes your sketch doesn't have to be very elaborate. It can only be 30 seconds or a few minutes to get it down, just to give you an idea of the composition, and then you go straight into the painting. But of course, when I'm teaching, value studies are a must to help people see things, because it can be very, very overwhelming for artists starting off and looking at a scene and seeing, oh my God, there's so much going on. Where do I start? And the value studies really, really help with that.
So simplifying, I think what I keep talking to other artists and people I teach is, it's trying to remove probably about 80-90% of the things and just putting in essential few which is needed, and then also composition wise, what to place where and how to treat it is a key thing.
Exactly.
So also, when you're talking about plein air, Ireland, the cold doesn't help as well. So it kind of forces you to do it very quickly as well. So you want to do it in as little brush strokes as possible, and then try to complete a painting, which, if people watch your painting a little more closely on Instagram and other things, you got a strong brush strokes. And I feel it's like, especially in the plein air, you can see that the rawness is there in the plein air. In the studio, you get to take a little more time. There's a little more defined structures, I would feel, but I think the plein air seems like a go-to for most of the artists.
Yeah, but there's something very, very special about going back to the studio after you've done your plein air.
Yeah.
Like this painting, I don't know if
Yeah.
you can
I
see
say I
it
can see it.
behind
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
So this one was a plein air initially. That
Yeah.
was, probably 12 by or 16 by 11 inch or something, and
Yeah.
I loved it so much that I wanted to just really
Yeah.
absorb myself into it
Yeah.
in the studio. So they both have their place, the
Mm-hmm.
studio and outside, but you're really gonna up your learning curve and
Yeah.
get better by painting more outside for sure.
Yeah.
And Ireland does have its challenges, and the same as any other country has its own challenges.
Of course.
The
Yeah.
heat,
Yeah.
when I go away,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, you have to be so quick.
Yes.
So quick. And then the glare of the sunlight, that's always baffling, because not only do you have to find a nice scene to paint, but you've also got you've got to find a place to actually set up in the shade.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's got a nice viewpoint of that scene that you like.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's half
Mediterranean.
of the fun.
Yeah, Mediterranean, half the paintings, you want to make sure that you have a spray bottle and an umbrella. So just to make sure that you're cutting the sun, just to make sure that it's not glaring, or
Yeah,
making sure the painting doesn't dry off very quickly as well. So,
exactly.
Sebastian, it's like, how does your day look like? So do you paint every day, or generally do you work anything else, or at the moment is it 100% painting? What does a day look like for you?
My day, basically, at the moment, I'm trying to work on building my online courses, and I'm also working on retreats. And so a lot of
Yeah.
my time is balanced between painting and working on the computer, essentially. So my painting, it's I used to have this attitude of I must paint every day. I must paint every day. I did a workshop once with Alvaro Casagnet,
Yeah.
and he went around to everyone. He said, "Are you painting every day? Are you painting every day?" And I thought, "Oh God, you have to paint every day." And
Yeah.
I get it. If you want to get good at anything, you need to put time in. But sometimes you just need to take a break. And sometimes you can just get swamped, and feel that you need. Sometimes coming back from a little break, whether it's 2 days or a week. I wouldn't really have that much of more of a break. But when you come back from that time,
Yeah.
then you're fresh. You are fresh,
Yeah.
and you've given your body time to digest as well by, being distracted with whatever other things you're doing.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. So, but do you prefer landscapes, or is there a particular subject you are drawn back to? You do more and more?
Yeah, I love landscapes because basically it's what's around me the most at the moment, and you, I think you're kind of, as a plein air artist, you're drawn to what's around you, and
Yeah.
there's just lots of landscapes around me. I love rivers and trees and reflections and landscapes like
Yeah.
rolling hills and the sea, but I also love urban sketching.
Yeah.
I love painting buildings. I love, shapes. I always look for different shapes in paintings, and urban sketching, painting scenes in the towns and the cities. They've always got such a varied abundance of different shapes, and they all add to make a dynamic painting. So, you've got your triangle awnings, or your triangle gazebos, or your circular signs, and then all of your lines from your telegraph poles and your wires, and all of these contrasting things are all complementing. Sometimes you don't get that in a landscape that's trees and a field. So it's nice to mix it up.
So, just for context, what part of Ireland are you at the moment?
I'm down in Cork, so it's right down at the south.
Yeah, there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies in Cork.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm a mechanical engineer, so I work in medical field. So I know that a lot of people are in Cork, especially a lot of tax incentives to open a company in Ireland. So there's a lot of companies. Every pharmaceutical major companies, they're either in Switzerland or next places in Ireland.
In Ireland, yes, and we're all They're all very, very worried at the moment with what's going on with
With
the
the
tariffs.
Trump tariffs off.
But I think they're okay. I think they're good. They're not going to be affected.
Yeah.
So I think they're okay for
Yeah,
the next few
I
years.
think if you don't panic, I think that's what is going on when we are recording. And another thing, Sebastian, I didn't realize we have common is I took classes with Alvaro in
Aha.
2013 for a week.
Oh
2013?
wow.
Yeah. So I was very inspired by his work. I like artists who uses very expressive force, right? And there is a
Yeah.
strong brush strokes. They're trying to capture the raw elements. Those are the kind of artists I am drawn towards. One of the reasons I like your paintings is that I see those kind of. So I took a class in 2013. I can.
Oh
He,
wow.
Alvaro is a passionate, but he's a good character, right? So, but
He's a great character.
he
I
is a great
remember
character.
asking him, I said, "How do I get my blacks like yours?"
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, "Oh, from the blood from my veins." And I thought, oh, okay. I later found out from someone else then that it just use alizarin crimson and
Yeah.
ultramarine and you get a nice juicy black. I'm like, okay.
No,
He's very funny.
he is a funny, but he is coming on the podcast, by the way. I hope so. He in May or June. So trying to
Oh,
get him
lovely.
nailed for a time is a challenge. So
Amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
I can imagine. He's a
yeah,
busy man. He's
yeah. He's a busy
globe-trotting.
man, but he has said that he's going to make time. We'll see how it goes. But if
Great.
Alvaro is watching, then yeah.
I
Uh,
look forward to it.
No, no, no. I'm looking forward for it. It's like he's one of our artists I like, and then also
Mm.
UK and Ireland. There is a lot of watercolor from a very long time, but there is also with the social media, you see a lot of watercolor artists from different countries right now. Uruguay. I didn't think about Uruguay until Alvaro, and now there's a lot of
Mm.
other artists. Australia, obviously, there's like a Joseph, and then there's Herman Pickle and other people. David Taylor.
Yeah,
There are a lot
love
of
them.
good artists over there. So we can talk about a little bit of art, but also we can switch towards a little more about how do you grow your audience, right? That probably is one of the key things. A lot of artists these days with
Mhm.
AI. What's your take on AI before we go to that subject?
Uh, it's great. I'm pretty much using
Yeah,
it every day.
yeah,
Um, but it's not so much for my art, but
yeah,
for just everything. But it's also very scary.
yeah,
So I'm doing this business course, and one of the students put up a notice on the Facebook page of the business course, and
yeah,
he said, "Okay, these are the subject lines that I picked for my email,"
yeah,
and I then asked AI to come up with some, and I gave AI the
yeah,
context, and it came up with these amazing subject lines
yeah,
that were just so perfect,
yeah,
and it's scarily good.
yeah,
But yeah, so look, it's we're just going to have to learn to grow with it because it ain't going
yeah,
away.
yeah,
And yeah, so with regards to growing, my following Instagram has always been great.
yeah,
The reels, I love telling a little bit of a story,
yeah,
and that's from my acting background, and I
yeah,
don't mind being in front of camera,
yeah,
and that's helped. Now at the start, I was very, very, very shy as a person
yeah,
in front of the camera, and
yeah,
sometimes it is a little bit tricky.
yeah,
Being myself, I was always playing someone else, and that was easier. But when
yeah,
you're yourself, then it's a different story.
yeah,
But yeah, so Instagram Reels, and then you send people to your email list. So you do your reel, and then you'd say join my private list, and then you give them something worthwhile that they can use, and then you build up a communication
mhm,
and a trust with them, and you make friends with them essentially, and treat them like a friend, and that's all part of the game. I think is just inviting people to your email list so they can join your journey and avail of your products, and that's such a huge thing.
mhm,
It's it's so hard for artists, but it can be exciting. I do have an entrepreneurial spirit,
mhm,
so I think I'm lucky because a lot of artists they just they just paint, and I'm also a little bit envious of them that they if they can survive
yeah,
as an artist and just paint, that's absolutely amazing.
yeah,
But I'm not there.
yeah,
I need to be kind of like getting myself out there and
yeah,
you know working.
Yeah.
You're working. You're grinding.
Yeah, oh,
You
absolutely.
know.
I think what people see is just the tip of the iceberg, literally. So 90% of the
Yeah.
things is just trying to do. And is there any particular reason why Instagram or YouTube or any other thing?
Instagram was the platform that I used for my business.
Okay.
I had an event business. I used Instagram.
Yeah.
YouTube wasn't useful then, so
Yeah.
that just carried on to my art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Using Instagram and a little bit of Facebook then as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, so it's YouTube is that's just another job in itself,
It
really, isn't
is
it?
all this social media. And at the
Yeah.
moment, are you just a solo person? Do you delegate some of the tasks to
Oh
virtual
no, it's
assistant?
all me. It's
It's
all
all you.
me.
Okay. So there is a lot
Yeah,
of work just doing the admin work and then trying to get the
yeah,
editing and other things. Are there any tools you
exactly.
use at the moment? So do you use CapCut,
Yeah,
Premiere? What do you
yeah.
use?
So I use Final Cut.
Final Cut. Okay.
I've always used Final Cut. I've used it for making my little movies when I used to make
Yeah.
movies, short films. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
know
you.
the editing program,
Yeah.
and I use DJI.
Yep.
I'm using the DJI webcam right now,
Yep.
which is really
Yeah.
just DJI are amazing,
They
absolutely
have blown
amazing.
up right now. I think from the past 5 years, everything with the drones to the small cameras and other things,
Yeah,
they are everywhere. Yeah.
they're really good, really
Yeah. Yeah.
good. I'm waiting for Apple to come out with something, but they haven't been able to, or just
Yeah.
they haven't tried. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they are. Yeah, it's a different beast, right? They are trying to provide one or two good products to mass, right? They could come up with a lot of different ideas. People just with the Apple background, they might buy it, but
Yeah.
especially with the cameras and other things, the technology is changing so quickly. I'm looking for the DJI Mini, the couple of small mics, tiny
Oh
mics.
yes.
Yeah, the couple of
Yeah.
mics so that I can try when I'm wanted to do reels when I'm outside. The always is
Yeah.
very windy, so I'm trying to get that one.
Have you got an Osmo?
No, I don't have an Osmo.
Osmo is a game changer. That's the one I'm using for
Is it
my
okay?
for
Oh,
this.
the
This
first.
is an
Okay.
Osmo. I
Okay.
use Osmo for my reels,
Okay.
and I use it for filming my courses. It looks
Sure.
down on the page, so
Yeah.
it works as a webcam,
Yeah.
and yeah, really good, really
Okay.
good.
I'll have to look it up. So at the moment, I got a Sony ZV-E10. There's a camera, and
Oh
then
yeah,
that's what I use. And then I have another phone, so I got two in case if I want to do one for webcam and one for the camera. That's what I tend to
nice.
use at the moment. So, can we talk about frustration? I'm sure people think every painting you do goes out perfectly fine. There are times,
Oh,
I don't know how about you, but for other
no.
artists, we tend to have some paintings which doesn't come out as good as you want. How do you talk to yourself, self-motivating? Can we talk about a
Yeah,
little more about how you
yeah,
keep up?
yeah. So a lot of my paintings have a bad painting on the other side.
Yeah,
So there's lots to be learned from every painting,
sure.
good and bad. So there's never any wrong in creating bad paintings, and they might be bad in your eyes, and might not be in someone else's eyes. But
Yeah,
a lot of the time, people are just being nice as well, so you can't really trust them. But there's lots to be said from
yeah,
creating bad paintings. If you're creating good paintings all the time, then you're not really pushing yourself. You're not trying different
sure.
things. So if anyone's just constantly putting out new paintings
Yeah,
and that they're happy with it all the time, then it was like, all right, yeah, but like, let's see what you can do that's different. They keep
yeah,
putting out the same thing otherwise that you're comfortable in.
yeah,
So I want to see some bad paintings.
yeah. But you see that a lot on Instagram, right? People,
Yeah.
they have a one-trick pony. They are good at one particular style of painting, and then they replicate over and over again with slightly different tones of colors
Yes.
and other things. Yeah, so you usually get bored very quickly looking at the same type of
Yeah.
painting. Yeah,
Oh, I've got some plaster casts, some heads that I want to paint so that I can
yeah,
start doing figure drawing.
sure.
And they say that when you paint a real life person, and the more you practice it, that when you go outside to do your
Yeah,
landscape painting, when you paint
yeah,
that tree will have all of the curves that
sure.
face does. So they
Yeah,
all complement each other, whatever topic that you've
yeah.
decided to paint.
So, what about motivation? How do you motivate yourself?
Oh, all I need to do is walk outside,
Yeah,
and that's it.
yeah, but
That's it.
it's
I am very lucky. I am very lucky that I can just, when I'm driving, my daughter, I probably really annoy her
Yeah.
because I pull the car in and I take out my phone and I take a few pictures,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I'm at a traffic lights and I'm, oh, look at those clouds. So, oh, look at that shadow. Oh, the burnt sienna. Oh, there's a bit of cerulean there in the sky.
Yeah.
Take pictures, you know? And like, so I am, and I think you get that from painting outside.
Yeah.
And that's the gift. That's part of the gift is
Yeah.
that you're outside and it's hard to get depressed or overwhelmed by stuff that goes on in your life.
Yeah.
You do get overwhelmed with stuff that goes on in your life, but it makes things a little bit easier
Yeah.
when you get to take a breath and look outside and see the beauty that's all around you.
Yeah. So if we are talking about motivation, we talked about motivation, and then also just generally influences. Do you have a artist or a people you like, or who do you get inspired by?
Yeah, my favorite artists are Joseph Spukvich,
Yeah.
obviously Alvaro Casagnet, Herman Peckel. You mentioned him
Yeah.
as well. And then there's Nicholas Lopez. He's amazing for granulation.
Okay.
I did a workshop with
Or
him.
is that the guy who does a lot of black and white, Nicholas Lopez?
Yeah,
That's right. Yes,
yeah.
I've seen his. Yeah.
Yeah. He's amazing. I did a
Yeah.
workshop with him in Prague and we nearly
Yeah.
got him over to Ireland, but
Yeah.
something happened with his visa. But really, really interesting character and really
Yeah.
nice guy, and his work is always kind of wow. And I love Andy Vincent's work as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's just creates these really beautiful landscapes, and yeah, they're my
Yeah.
main top
Yeah. People do go through.
people that I'm influenced by. I have Joseph Spukvich's book
Yeah.
under my bed,
Yeah.
and I read a chapter before I go to sleep most
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah. No, but I think the old videos of I think is that a video where all Herman Pickle, Joseph, and Alvaro paints a painting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I think I mean
special.
when you look at it, the Joseph obviously he's a little more controlled. He wants to
Yeah.
control the elements, while Alvaro and the Herman Pickle they are a little more explosive. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
yes. I mean it's amazing. I like. I think they have done it twice. I think so. There's two paintings. I've watched that probably about 30 times now. So
It's
every time I
amazing.
watch it, and the funny
Yeah.
thing is, like every few years you watch it, you'll pick up something else. So and
Yeah.
then, yeah. So that's a yeah. I haven't got Joseph's book. I have Alvaro's book. I think it's called Passion. More than a passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have that on my Kindle, but I have Joseph's book in full form.
Yeah.
It's rare; they're not printing it. You know, you're paying a couple of hundred
Yeah.
to 300 for it, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Can we talk about how you manage criticism, if you had any criticism about your work or
Oh
generally?
yeah. I handle it very bad, but I think there's always something good to take from criticism, and you know, I think we're all in a very safe community as watercolor artists.
Yeah.
I think there's very few people that would say, "Oh, that's shit."
Yeah.
You know, you're
That's
wasting
true.
your time. I've had a few, but it doesn't happen often. And when it happens often, you know, it's hard not to react, and you
Yeah.
know, because you always focus in on that negative one, don't you? But
Yeah.
I think as you get older, you stop giving a shit.
Yeah. So, in terms of any advice to youngsters, what do you say? Or maybe the question could be, if you go back 10 years, what would you do differently from what you're doing right now?
If I was to go back 10 years or even earlier, I would say just carry a little sketch pad around with you and get used to painting real life,
Yeah.
or drawing real life,
Yeah.
and eventually something magical will happen.
Yeah. Any common mistakes you want others to avoid, or when they start, common mistakes
Yeah.
you've seen in your
Yeah.
students? Most common thing?
Yeah. So a big thing is not using enough water. I was actually talking about it to my subscribers. I send an email every day nearly, and this
Yeah.
actually came up today. And I just told them that it's the first wash.
Yeah.
You want it to get really. Actually, a friend of mine, Harry, he's from India. He lives in Dublin. and he was telling me about this workshop he went to from this master in India. I don't know the master's name, but he said that the master would walk around and put his hand into people's water and then splash their paintings. And eventually he realized that's his way of saying you
Yeah.
need to use more water.
Yeah.
And so the first layer, it needs to be nice and transparent. You're just taking the white off the page.
That's right.
And you just want that white to glow, to shine through.
Yeah.
And you're tinting it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and I have to remind myself that as well all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you put in your middle value, it'll really pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
It's in the name, right? Wash. Yeah, washing the paper, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to wash the paper. So
yeah.
I know, but it's just funny, right? Obviously, it's like, people. It's very funny. First thing I want to come back to the statement is, watercolor people are one of the nicest bunch of people I've met. So I feel it's because they know how hard it is and what the struggle is. So there is a unspoken bond between watercolor artists that, okay, we understand each other. Let's at least not give shit to each other, right? That's I think, and people are very, very, especially in watercolor community, they're very open. There's no secrets. You ask any question, people are very, very happy to not only tell things, to show things, right? I've never met a water artist who is like very secretive about how he does it, what he does it. They're always very open about it. I don't know.
No, because they know it takes time to get that skill or that technique down, doesn't it? But yeah, we are. You're so right. Everyone is just so nice. And I came from an acting world where the egos were massive.
Yeah.
When you went to those auditions, and it's just totally different. I've got a lot of acting friends, and I've met some amazing people, but there's also some big egos. But when you meet these watercolors in these festivals, everyone is just it's just so nice.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing being around these people.
Yeah, and I've never met any artist who says this painting is like really great. They said, it could still improve. Like they're always talking about it's like, some elements are all right. There's few places I could have done better, but it's all right now. Yeah.
Very honest.
Very honest. Yeah. So they are very harsh on themselves, and yet we are always painting because at least I am thinking about as like, okay, I've learned this one. Next time, hopefully I'm not going to make this mistake. And still sometimes you make mistake, but you get on with it. So let's talk a few practical things. What do you do right now, right? Let's talk technical in terms of what sort of paper do you use, Sebastian?
Okay, so I use Baoyang paper and Arche. Arche is my favorite, and it depends how many paintings or workshops I've sold. It defines how much Arche paper I can buy. But Baoyang is also very, very good paper.
Yeah, it's a good paper,
Yeah, and to be honest, I haven't really tried many others, and if I have, then I've just had such an abundance of other papers I needed to use that were Arche or Baoyang that, I realized it goes off, and it's horrible when it goes off.
Yeah.
Because, I was teaching my workshop last week, and my demonstration, the paint didn't go through the paper. It just stayed on top. It just went, I was like, oh no, it's just such a waste. So Arche, 300 gram, cold pressed. Rough for the big sheets, rough. For the small sheets, then fine, because it still feels a little bit rough,
So do you buy paper in rolls, or you buy full size and then cut them, or how do you?
I used to buy it in rolls, and I found it a pain in the ass. So I just buy it in sheets now. And I cut them with my metal ruler in half and cut them again into a quarter, and that suits me.
That's so do you generally stick with quarter sheets?
Yeah, pretty much. I do like to take the plunge and paint a bigger one, but it's always a challenge painting the bigger paintings, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I stick with half a sheet and a quarter sheet. Those are my go-to.
Nice
size. And then
good sizes.
And in terms of brushes, is there any preference to what type of brush? What brushes do you use?
Yes, I use a Skoda mainly mop brushes, and then I have I don't have them here with me. I have a few Hake brushes then. That I love to get those big square shapes in with.
Sure.
And I use a lovely needle point brush from the Alvaro range, and I've had that for years, and I lost it 2 weeks ago when I was painting outside. I was gutted. And one of my students felt so sorry for me. She gave me her little needle point, and I don't have it with me, but it's got a stem on it. It's about an inch,
Yeah.
but the actual handle is an inch, and
Yeah.
then the actual brush then is 3 times the size.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. I was like, it's perfect for doing the rigging in tall ships, which are a great exercise to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those tall ships. So I do love those, but that's mainly it. And then I have a few cheap jobbies and a few nice little Chinese brushes
Yeah.
for getting in
No,
those
no, no.
trees.
Now, Escoda brush, I'm hoping that someday I will. This summer, I'm trying to be in Spain, so I'm trying to see if I can get a video tour of the factory. That would
Oh,
be a nice.
wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can set that up and then go and then
Very cool.
do a video, even if it's like half an hour or 1 hour, at least some footage, so I can put things together.
That
In
would be
terms
cool.
of pigments, what do you said? Do you prefer something?
Yes, I'm using Daniel Smith purely because
Yeah,
the artist that I admire the most use Daniel Smith,
yeah,
and I've become so familiar with the colors that I use for my palette
yeah,
that I'm just comfortable with them.
yeah. So, is there any
Um,
most go-to pigments? Is there like a few pigments which you go for?
yeah, I have my primaries, my cobalt and ultramarine cerulean. Then I have my yellow ochre burnt sienna,
Yeah,
and the alizarin crimson, and
yep,
they're my main ones with a bit of lavender.
yeah,
And there's a few little wild cards in there like quinacridone gold
yeah,
that seems to last forever. And for some reason, I've got these tubes of it lying around, and
forever.
you only need a tiny little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
and it goes a long way. So
yeah,
yeah, they're my main pigments really that
yeah.
I use.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is paper, there's brush, and then is there if people want to pick, do you consider paper, pigment, brush in a same percentage, or you pick
Yeah,
paper better than pigments or brush?
yeah. I think brushes. I think you can paint a whole painting with your hand
Yeah,
if you put your mind to it. So I
yeah,
think brushes are handy,
yeah.
but I think paper and paint are the most important.
So paper
And
number one
they're
and pigment number two. Yeah,
yes, I think so. I think so. I mean, I think I think paint number one,
yeah,
and
okay,
then paper number two, because I think even cheap paper,
yeah.
you can create some nice effects with it if you've got good paint.
Good
But
paint.
you can't do it the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. 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 It's always interesting to hear, right? How and do you prefer flat brush or round brush? But if you're used to a certain
I
brush,
literally chop and change.
yeah,
I have my Skoda, my flat brush here in front
and
of
then
me,
you
and
brush.
it
Yeah.
depends what I'm in the mood for
Yeah.
using, really. Yeah.
Yep. Now, and palette wise, do you have a plein air palette or a studio palette
Yeah,
or anything?
I do. I have it here. I have my brass palette here.
Yep.
This guy here, and he's great. But I've also been sent one, a Lintner palette.
That's right. That's
That's
the new one from Cambridge, by the way. I think the manufacturer is from Cambridge. I think so.
yeah. He
Yeah.
is. He's it's a great little palette, I have to say, and
Yeah.
he's doing a Kickstarter soon, and it's nice and compact. I think
Yeah.
it's good to have a palette in the car
Yeah.
and a little sketch pad, and that's the ideal thing to have in the car.
Yeah.
Because it's just so small. So
Yeah.
you no excuses then.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
waiting to pick up your kids from
Yeah.
somewhere.
You're
Get
always
out your
thinking.
sketch pad. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what I hear from you is always have a sketch pad, multiple places, and
Yes.
then have a small kit of even if it's a pan painting pan, then you can still use some. You don't have to have a pigment tubes, but you can just have a pan and then you can use those things.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think it's good because if it's in front of you, you're more likely to use it. So put it
yeah.
everywhere.
Make it as easy as possible, right? So
Yes.
in fact, I stretch the paper and then keep it ready so that when the motivation comes in, I don't have to fiddle around. Everything is right there. I can just quickly go paint and then
That's
move
a
on.
habit I need to get into,
Yeah, yeah.
is stretching the paper, taping it down onto a board, and then having it.
It's ready so that I can just come in because sometimes it happens and then I just that's the way I try to do it is because I got two kids I just
Yeah.
get few minutes of time in the evening, so I try to
Mm.
do is like, at least I want to. I feel guilty if I don't paint, by the way. So I
Yeah,
don't.
I know, I know.
So even if it's a bad painting or something like that, I've done it, so at least I can sleep and then I'm peaceful that night, and then we can go from there.
Y-
Uh,
Yeah.
so we talked about a lot of different things about painting and other things, right? So, but I was just curious, especially with your background, water sport, art, and the tragedy, and then how has it helped? You think that that has an impact on your painting, or is it something because you don't have a formal painting, uh,
No.
you haven't been formally trained?
No, no. I do think that your life's experiences
Yeah,
mold you into who
yeah,
you are,
yeah,
and that's going to result in what kinds of painting you paint.
yeah,
But also, I think it's just genetic as
yeah,
well. It's not that it's genetic. I think that it's the way that it's like your handwriting.
yeah.
It's everyone's got their own unique
Sure.
person, no
Yeah,
matter what experiences they've had. They've
yeah,
got their handwritings the same. So
yeah.
there's that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, I completely agree. And then I think I was listening to Naval Ravikant. He was talking about is like, the best way to be is being yourself, right? Trying to be
Yeah.
somebody else is tiring and it's impossible to catch up. You got to be just yourself and then find something which you enjoy.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
do believe copying the masters is definitely a
yeah,
way to learn for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And then eventually all of that will just tie into
yeah,
your own style.
yeah,
What do they say? They say that your style finds you.
yeah.
You don't find your style.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And then one of the questions a lot of students ask is like, how do I know when the painting is finished? And I usually say is like, pick an artist who you like and then try to copy as best as you can, right? You're going to learn, your learning curve is going to be quite steep. You're going to learn, and then you'll know
Mm.
when to stop because that's your gold standard or reference. So you know
Yeah.
when to start. And then also there is something about picking up the right subjects. So is there a subjects you would prefer for a beginner to pick compared to something else, or how would you? Uh,
Yeah. So I suppose picking subjects, it depends. It depends in Ireland. It depends on the weather.
yeah,
So it defines where you're going to go if it's outside or if it's raining so bad and windy that you're going to
yeah,
be inside. So you
yeah,
might paint something that you wouldn't normally paint.
yeah,
So that's how it's defined. Like today, I didn't have much time, and the plan was to go outside and paint just the garden, and that didn't to a head because I ended up having to go to bring my wife to the hospital because her back went out. She's
oh,
fine, but there's always something,
I'm
and
sure.
so there's but then just always thinking, how am I going to what am I going to paint, even if it means just sitting outside or looking out of the window?
Yeah,
It's just to paint something, and then sometimes you'll just get a spark of inspiration.
yeah,
What I do, a good thing as well, is in your Google Maps,
yep,
if you spot somewhere that looks like a nice view, and there's a nice parking space, there's a
yep,
gate, there might be a tree, and an amazing landscape or a view of some streets,
yep,
mark it into your Google Maps
yep,
and save it in a places to paint
yep,
folder.
yep,
And I do it daily. So I have a marker going in every day
yep,
nearly. And, so when you're stuck and want inspiration,
yep,
have a look and go, oh, I'll go to that little tower
yep.
that was over there and paint
I
there.
will add something to that caveat. What you said is fantastic. I do that, but
Oh,
also
yeah.
there's another thing is within that Google, you can see different photographs across the years. I pick one which has a strong sun or a contrast in the shadows. So you can
Mm,
pick a same area or a same photo what you like, but have a look at different time zone or a time lapse. You have like 6 or 7 different depending on where you pick. You can pick a different photo so that it matches the shadows because it's like as a I look for which has a clear. If it's a gray sky, you'll have to think about where to put the shadows. But if there is already in the photo,
that's
uh,
such a good idea. And
yeah,
it's better than making up where you think the shadows are going to go,
yes, yes,
because you'll always have
yeah.
someone say, the sun doesn't ever come past that building.
That's right. That's right. But within that, if you pick especially the cityscape and other things, I pick a location and then I look for people, or sorry, a different years or months where they have taken different photos, and I'm sure you will pick one which
That's a
is
really good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
something better there. What about pricing, Sebastian? How do you think about how to price the paintings? This is one of the things I find it challenging. Is like if you're going to a gallery, it makes it a little more easy because it's like they're charging 50%, so you are trying to come up with a better price. How do you think
Mm.
about pricing your artwork, or is it? And then also
Yeah.
other question is around how do you approach galleries? Do you got any
Yes.
advice on that thing?
So, with regards to pricing my artwork, I have a set price,
Okay.
depending on the size, and that might change
Yeah.
depending on the subject,
Yeah.
depending how much has gone into it, and so it ranges anywhere from a slightly smaller
Yeah.
something that I did, like I went away in my camper van the week before last,
Yeah.
and I put my wing foiling gear into the roof of the camper,
Yeah.
and I packed up all my painting gear, and I went
Yeah.
wing foiling on the Friday, and then the next day I went painting. This is down in the west of Ireland, right by the sea, and
Yeah.
I painted in the morning and I painted in the afternoon, and I went for dinner in a lovely little seaside
Yeah.
restaurant. And the owner came up to me and she said, "Oh, what did you do today?" And I said, "I painted." She said, "Oh, my daughter is a painter. Can I see your art?" And I showed her. She said, "Oh, I'd like to buy that." And I thought, "Oh, okay," but I didn't want to, scare her away
Yeah.
either, But I ended up selling it for 200,
Yeah.
and it's because of my relationship with how I was feeling. I was having such a lovely
Sure.
time. My wife and my daughter went away to have their lovely time in Dublin for the weekend, so I was a free man for the weekend, and that just felt like the right place. And I ended up selling two paintings
Yeah.
that day. So that never happens, by the way. That never happens. But that would be the very, very cheap,
Yeah.
early kind of, and then it would go
Yeah.
up to bigger paintings, then go up to like that one behind me there.
Yeah.
That'll be 800, or
Yeah.
because of the time that's gone into it.
Yeah.
I've done so many plein air studies for that
Yeah.
to create that, and so there's all of these variables come in to play, but it's always in and around that price between
Yeah.
for commissions. I have 400. That's it for the commission. It's just
Yeah.
easy,
It's easy. Yeah.
and it's just say that. So each time you ask, there's no
Yeah.
to say, yeah, 400 done.
Yeah.
And it's just, but like, yeah, artwork, selling art is tricky in
Yeah.
Ireland, in the south of Ireland,
Yeah.
especially watercolor. Oil is always the supreme, and which is sold for
Mm.
thousands, and it's just the way it is. So selling a painting is like it's a bonus,
Yeah.
but a lot of the time it's you need to have another job,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you need to be teaching.
Yeah. You need to be teaching. Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
that's true. Do you do any Zoom classes as well, online classes, or?
Yes, I do. I do Zoom classes. I do online courses on my website. I've got a
Yeah.
few. I've got introductory to watercolor, and then I've got plein air
Yeah.
course, and I'm working on a 3-month mentorship,
Yep.
and that's going to be available in a month or two, and
That's,
I'm really
that's
looking
a
forward to
time
that.
commitment. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm working on a few Irish retreats.
Yeah.
I had an event business to support my acting career for a while, where I hired actors to go around, including myself, to do murder mysteries in
Sure.
lovely spots around Ireland. So that's kind of correlating into my art. So I want to create this lovely art retreat where we go painting castles and
Yeah.
go to all these lovely spots and
Yeah.
eat Irish food and drink Guinness.
Yep.
So
No. Sounds fantastic.
yeah,
I
well, you're coming, so we'll have to book you in.
book you in. No, but seriously, if you are in around Cambridge or London,
Yes.
do let me know. So it's like I can show you around my favorite
I'd love
spots
that.
to paint in Cambridge and in Suffolk and other places. So it's like there are a lot of, as I said, it's like there's plenty of inspirations around.
Oh, I imagine. Yes, I would love that. I
Yeah,
will
it's
definitely
only
take you up on that
climate,
offer.
the weather permitted. So at least in the summer and other things, it's all right. But
Yeah.
I am very appreciative of your time. I'm going to just ask a couple more questions and then maybe let you go. Talking
No
about a
problem.
little bit of future. So how does your future look like? So what do you have any plans about what you're going to be painting more here, or what are you looking for?
Yes, so I suppose I want to ultimately be painting um, more, and it's
Yeah.
always the goal, isn't it? I just want to paint more, and so it's that, but also it's working on. I get lots and lots of invites
Yeah.
to teach abroad,
Yeah.
on these workshops, on these retreats, and
Yeah.
it's lovely, it's amazing, it's a great offer, but also I have a small family, and I
Of
don't want
course.
to be away from them.
Yeah.
So I want to do my own here. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm working on, is to create my own retreats here. So that's in this immediate future plan. And then moving forward then is just honing that, and just, I just love inspiring and teaching and painting. And I really get a buzz when someone's gets the same feeling and passion that I get from
Yeah.
painting. When that rubs off on someone, on a student, then
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. And
Yeah.
there's not enough watercolor artists in Ireland, especially in Cork.
Yeah.
I've set up an outdoor painting club,
Yeah.
Cork Plein, which is great. Some days we might have 16, others we might have two,
Well, that's
including
a good.
me.
Yeah.
But I don't mind, because it's not about money. It's not
Yeah.
about it's about no one's. It's free, and it's
Yeah.
about just going out and building a community, and just being in nature
Yeah.
or in the city
Yeah.
somewhere nice, and painting. So it's just to paint and to share the love. That's
Yeah.
the goal for the
No,
rest
no,
of my life.
no. I hope you continue with that one. Is there any last parting words you want to say, Sebastian, before we?
No, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's really given me a kick up the ass to buy a nice microphone finally. So and it's really nice chatting to you, and it's always, as you say, meeting watercolor artists.
Yeah.
I'm sure those oil and acrylic artists are nice too, I
Sure.
suppose. But there's something special about those watercolor artists. We get
We
it.
are biased about watercolor artists. Let's say that one, right? So they might be
Yeah,
good, but we are biased about watercolor. How can
correct.
people find you, Sebastian? So where's the best place to come and say hello to you?
Yes, so the best place to come and say hello to me is on my website,
Yep.
sebastianthommen.com. And if you just go onto my mailing list, then I send their daily emails, and they're not silly things, they're just
Yeah.
thoughts and tips and all that, and people reply back, and
Yeah.
and I generally, if I'm not busy, but everyone does get replied to.
Sure.
And so, like, that's the best way. Sometimes Instagram can get swallowed up, but
Sure.
I am on Instagram as well, and of course Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main one would be the website. Have a look, join the
Yeah.
private list, and we'll start this journey together.
No, I will make sure that all the things what we have mentioned, any links and other things will be added into the transcript notes. This brings to an end to another inspiring episode of Wet on Wet. I hope you are leaving with a renewed sense of creative energy and a deeper appreciation for the unique journey of Sebastian Thommen. His story reminds us that art isn't confined to classroom or traditional paths. It's living, breathing expression of our experiences, our passions, and even our rebellions. And remember, whether you are battling the blank page or simply seeking a moment of creative solace, your art has value. Thank you, Sebastian, for sharing your incredible story and your passion for watercolor. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this artistic adventure. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your fellow art enthusiasts. Until next time, keep your brushes wet, your spirits high, and your creative fibers burning. Thank you for watching.